Hey, welcome to a new Project Kamp update. So we bought this big piece of land and are prototyping a more sustainable way of living. Not sure how it's gonna go, but let's see. And in the previous video we opened up the well on their neighbor land. It went a bit sketchy, but some guys went inside, cleaned it up, closed the lid. So we now have a functioning well that actually fills itself up pretty quickly, so that's good. And in today's video we're actually gonna wire it up to make sure we have water running in our container and our washing machine and water tap and these kind of things work. So we're gonna get the components, set up the system and actually give it a test run. So I've been doing quite some digging into the pump system and how we're going to use it. So let me explain in this video what's going to happen. So you start off basically if you have water somewhere that you need a pump. In this case we have a submersible pump, so it goes in the well. Why it's this shape is that you can also use it in a borehole. So if you drill down a deep hole, this one slides in there. So you put in the pump, you wire it up with electricity, and then it just pumps water out from here. So technically that's kind of all you need, the pump where water comes out. So you could puzzle a bit with these pieces. So in this way you should actually just have water coming out. You could obviously extend the pipe and make sure it runs to whatever you want it. You open the tap and the water comes out. The downside of this is that every time you open the tap the pump goes on because it needs to pump the water. So if you open a little bit, pump goes on, which means the pump goes on and off very often, which is not good for the pump. So what you would have in between here is what they call a pressure tank. And I think they're actually kind of genius. Wait, let me get it. So before we go into the nerdy side of setting up the system, let's just give a test to the pump. Just because it's here, it's fun, it's hot, and because last week we cleaned the well. So it should be quite quick to get some flowing water on the land. So we'll just make a new lid, lower the pump and hook it up to extension cords and see what happens. Coming! So we're now using the pump and it uses around 1300 watt. We have a bit more stuff standing on. So yeah, drawing a lot of energy. Nice one. Okay, so that all seems to be good. Now the plant's got some water and it's time to go back to the water system and pressure tank. Still need to explain you why they are so cool. So a pressure tank is here to make sure that every time you want water, the pump doesn't necessarily have to start. So in the old days people used to build, for instance, a water tower. So you pump up the water in a big quantity and then slowly with gravity you have pressure on your water and you can use it. But the downside is, well, you need to build this big tower. So what you have nowadays is pressure tanks. And what this basically means is a tank, metal one, and there's a balloon inside. And as the water pumps in, the balloon with air shrinks, but it kind of wants to expand, so this gives a pressure to the water. So in this way you can fill up your pressure tank with water and the balloon here gets compressed, which means it builds pressure, and then every time you open up the water tap the water comes out here and the balloon just expands a little bit. But it means that the pump doesn't have to go on and off every time you open up the tap. Now, in order to connect this, you need a few parts. So the world of water components is quite big. You have a lot of different options, and within each option you also have different sizes, from 1 inch, 1.5 inch, etc. So it's quite some puzzling to make this happen. So the components I use is what I could find here locally after a lot of puzzling in the store. So let me explain what you need to hook this up. First you need this part, and this makes sure water can only flow in one direction. As you can see, that's where the water could flow and not in that way. It's because this little valve makes sure it can only open in one way. So you can really build up pressure in a closed system on one side. Next we're gonna have a T-piece. So this piece has a few additional holes which are very crucial to set up a pressure tank. First I need to add a little connector in between. Now we connect it. So now we can add a few additional items. First, a bar meter. So this thing measures the pressure in your system. Then we have a pressure switch. So this thing is wired to your electronics and connected to the pump, and it measures the amount of pressure you have in your system. And if it goes too low, it would tell the pump to start, and if it's at a good level, it would stop the pump. So this is very important to maintain your water pressure. So we're gonna put that on top. Then we're gonna use another T-piece. You can probably find other parts for this, but this is what I could find. So this is gonna use to connect the tap. Then we can put on the tap. Now this is not gonna be the final tap. This is just gonna be a tap for maintenance to make sure we can empty the system. And then we're gonna add a main switch. So this makes sure we can turn off our whole water system at once. Next we're gonna get a tube to connect actually to the pressure tank. In our case we use a flexible tube. We're gonna mount that on the back of the T-piece. And what would actually also be good to have is a pressure valve to make sure if there's an overload of pressure, the valve releases it. I couldn't find that. All these components are now sourced here locally in the hardware stores, trying to puzzle it together. It takes quite some time actually. You can also buy a T-piece online as a kit. I could only find them in the US, but it seems very convenient because you kind of use the same components, but they already pre-selected it, put it together, so you don't have to go to the whole hassle of assembling this. So from here we basically have the water system, and then we're going to use some stainless steel tubes to connect it to our shower, washing machine, sink, everything comes after here. We're also going to install some filters because we're going to use the water from the well to make sure we can filter it. So now I'm going to wire everything up, and then we're going to pipe everything up and then make sure it runs. So when putting all the pieces for the pressure tank together, I discovered a new local shop and found this pressure release valve, the part I was missing, and the water meter. Now the meter isn't really needed, but seems like a fun thing to keep track of our water usage. So after putting together all the components, it's time to make a box where we are going to connect all these parts. As a base we will use two of these holders. We still had them laying around from our old workspace for hanging big bags with plastic. With a little modification we can use them to mount the box on the container. So this is actually super nice because I recently discovered that we can use our welding machine on the generator. I thought it would be way too heavy because we kind of have a powerful one, but turns out as long as you weld sort of not too high amperage, you can just run it, which has been super nice. No more stick welding and no more borrowing, we can just use our own welder. I like it. Now the box is ready, we can hook it up to the container and start assembling the system. This is going to be the main water inlet for the container. Everything inside is already hooked up. We just need to make sure the water flows and everything is connected together. So the water tubes don't leak and the water is flowing. And we also need to connect the water pump to our solar system. We set up in update 22 to make sure it gets electricity to pump the water up. Alright, so now it's almost there to turn it on. Just one last thing to do. So next we're going to prepare the ground to put the tubes in, because we need to get the water from the well to our base camp. So we're going to dig a few centimeters into the soil where we can put the tubes. We're going to keep the lines as straight as possible so it's easier. And then we go from this side where the well is to here. So first we're going to the workspace and then going to the town center. So we need to make a long line here. So it's going to be a lot of digging. So here we have it. That went a bit harder than expected. Soil is super rocky, hurt my hand. So I think we're just gonna continue throughout the days to dig a little bit every day, like a free gym. So all the slots are dug, and now we're gonna put in the tubes. Alright, so the well is now closed off, all the hoses and electricity cables are in. So now let me show you our full line and actually turn it on. So here we dig it into the road. We actually close it off already so the cars can pass. Here it's still open because, well, we first wanted to test it before we would actually close off everything. So it's still open. The electricity is split here to the workspace. Then continues to go, so one pipe now is for the water input and one is for electricity. Here is a sewage pipe coming out, still need to connect that, but first we want to actually have the water. Here it goes into the container. From here, then we have the system with the filters, water meter, pressure tank, everything is here. Filters are not installed yet because first we just want to have it run for a while before we would actually start filtering. The pressure tank, there's a balloon inside. I now pumped it with a bike pump. It is possible, but we don't have a meter, so actually not sure how much the bar is on this one, the pressure. So probably need to do that properly later, but I kind of just really want to test it. And also added another fuse box that goes to the pump to make sure we can turn it on. So I guess maybe it's time to just do that. Kind of scared. Alright. I hear the pump, I hear the water. I hear some air flowing. It's not a good sign. So Rita, can you show the water?
Yes, the water. Look at this. Water. 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 Finally we have water, and we don't need to go to town every day to fill up jerry cans. So we can finally use as much water as we need. The well fills up super quick. The neighbors say that they drink from water from the well, but for that we still want to do some water tests. And we have a good feature that comes with running water, which is ta-da, a washing machine.
Cool. So what's the first thing you're gonna do with all this water?
Very exciting thing. I think I will wash deeply the kitchen.
So the water is now connected to the town center, and the last part was actually super easy to connect it. Since it was that easy, I thought it would also be nice to maybe build an outdoor shower and an outdoor sink. So all the tubes are now connected, and I kind of want to give it a quick test run to see if it doesn't leak, and also because it's just fucking hot. But there isn't anything connected there yet, so it would just come out, I guess, hopefully. Alright, so that is running, but yeah, as you can see, we don't really have a shower head. We need one. But I was looking into the store, and you only find this very shitty plastic. I don't know, they feel they're gonna break anytime soon. I don't like that. I think that's the pump turning on. Anyway, we still need to connect that one on there, but I think I'm gonna make one myself with some leftover stainless steel tube. So I wanted to drill some holes, but the drill was too small for the head, so it didn't fit in. So now I try to hammer it. Maybe. So yeah, really good to have running water, especially after almost a year of filling up jerry cans. We can now take a fresh shower, wash our clothes and clean our dishes. So yeah, it's been really good. If you like what we do, make sure to visit support.projectkamp.com. Thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next video.